Hello, good morning. Welcome back to New Day right here on TV3. And it's now time for our social segment. And today we're talking about funding at the district level. And we've got with us in the studio today the lovely Mrs. Harrietta Nyama Ajimai and Mr. Daniel Adote. Good morning. Welcome to the show. How are you today? Okay. So, Mr. Adote, you're from SEND Ghana. Tell us a little bit about SEND Ghana, your organization.
Basically, SEND is a research and policy advocacy organization. We operational in five regions, if you like. We're in the northern region, Upper East, Upper West, Greater Accra. We have operational activities in Ashanti region also. We basically work at research, public policy advocacy. We assess the impact of government pro-poor programs and pro-poor interventions on poor people, and with feedback to government, the concerns of poor persons, community people, farmers, on how government interventions are impacted on them, so that government will take remedial actions to address challenges with respect to their intervention, so as to maximize any impact of their interventions on poor people.
Well, Mrs. Ajimai, why is your organization so passionate about development at the district level?
We think that citizens are entitled to whatever interventions that government has put in place for them. They have to know about it. They have to know the opportunities in those interventions and to take advantage of the interventions to better their livelihoods. So it is not just right to put out the interventions and nobody knows about it or nobody is taking advantage of it. And that is why we are passionate about it. We think that everybody in this country must have access to some of these interventions to reduce their poverty. If we want to reduce poverty anyway as a country, then we have to do that. And therefore we think that we have to help citizens, bring them together, sensitize them, and then all of us would demand our share of social interventions that government has put in place for us, or to demand accountability, if I should put it that way.
Now, development is supposed to begin at the district level, and the government, through its various agencies, has put together certain policies and programs to drive funding for development in these areas. Do you think they have done enough, or they're doing enough?
I wouldn't say it's bad. From a perspective of a poor country which has recently graduated to a lower middle income country, we are not doing badly. But if we would focus our attention on reducing poverty and work to get the resources to the core poor, we will be doing better than we are now. So when we put in the interventions, we just have to ensure that it reaches the people for whom that intervention was intended for, rather than just leaving it. If we say the 3 regions of the north are the poorest, and that you will find 9 out of 10 people in Upper West poor.
9 out of 10?
Yes. 8 out of 7 in Upper East, 7 out of 10 in Northern region. And we put in place poverty interventions. And at the end of the day, it doesn't get to the 3 regions of the north. Then we are just wasting our resources. For instance, if you pick the school feeding program, it's supposed to go to poor people, so that poor people's children can go to school, stay in school, learn, and graduate from school, at least the basic level. And so if you find Greater Accra, Ashanti, and Western region, benefiting more from the feeding program than in these regions that I have mentioned to be very poor, then we are not targeting right.
But why do you think these regions are being neglected?
It has to do with sending the resources there and making sure that it works effectively. It has to go beyond doing business as usual.
Okay,
so normally when we are sharing things as a country, we put in place the population factor, and immediately we bring in population factor. Greater Accra, Ashanti, we take out all the resources. And therefore, we need to redirect some resources basically to these 3 regions. And Central Region is the 4th. And also to Central Region, so that we target and make sure that we bridge the gap. But if we do business as usual, it will continue.
Harriet, you mentioned that Ghana is only in 5 regions. Why is that rather than all of them?
It also has to do with resource constraints.
Okay, so
we are basically funded by donors, and therefore you are able to reach a few areas based on what resources is available to.
Are any of the 3 regions that you mentioned now part of the 5 that you're in?
Yes, the 3 are part. We work in 56 districts across these regions. Yeah. So it is not every district that is even selected. We select the district based on the poverty index of this country. So we select the core poor districts.
Right. Now, agriculture has obviously been recognized as one of the key factors in regards to development of some of these poor areas. In regards to some of the discussions that you've had, how is that playing a role? Are they looking at it in the same way that we are, and the fact that that is the next step for them to be able to alleviate some of the poverty?
I will handle the question, but before I come to agriculture, I want to make a statement on management of resources for development. And for Ghana, we are very passionate about particularly the management of the District Assembly Common Fund, so that citizens would benefit more from it. If you look at the 2012 Auditor General's report of MFDAs, far in excess of 48 million Ghana cedis was misappropriated in this money. The first thing you have to ask yourself, what is the development effect of this money? This money could not have been accounted for because public officers have continuously violated rules, regulations, and procedures and policies relating to effective and efficient management of resources. So these are the issues that we think that government must continue to address. And also, the Auditor General annually raises this issue that the ministries, the chief directors, the entity heads need to enforce existing legislations relating to the use of public resources. So we say that fine, government put in the intervention, but how do you effectively manage it so that citizens benefit from that intervention? It's not enough to say the District Assembly Common Fund is there, it's putting in so much money for district development, but you don't manage it effectively and people are not accounting for it properly. Now, back to agriculture, I think that the issues relating to agriculture is a serious problem of underfunding to agriculture, particularly in districts that agriculture is the dominant activity. And if you look at the performance audits undertaken by the Auditor General on Ministry of Food and Agriculture's intervention or support to smallholder farmers, you would see that there are challenges relating to agri-extension. A lot of district and community, you will not find agri-extension officers there. There are other issues relating to ownership access to land for agricultural purposes. And these challenges that governments must address. There are challenges relating to marketing of agricultural produce, particularly for smallholder farmers, so that they will have value for their production. And until government puts in intervention in a sustainable manner to address these identified challenges, rural people and smallholder farmers will continue to remain poor. So for us at Ghana and in all the 56 districts that we are operating, we work with smallholder farmers to address challenges relating to agriculture production at the district level. We also target and work with vulnerable groups, persons with disability, people who are usually left within the development planning processes, and we bring them on board in the kind of activities and programming that we do, so that the larger segment of the population will benefit from government interventions, as my colleague did raise earlier on.
All right. Now, in regards to the dialogue that you're having, obviously once you've had your talks with all the necessary people, you're going to come out with the results from this?
The dialogue has already been done. You've had a stakeholders meeting already last month.
Yeah. So the communique is going to be due to be coming out, or it has come out?
It has come out. It has been sent to relevant ministries or agencies, and so that they will address issues raised in them. But before these issues were raised in the communique, all these stakeholders were part of the dialogue. That's why it's a dialogue. We had the ministries, we had agencies, We had district assemblies, civil society stakeholders, all coming together to discuss these issues and raising important issues that they think central government will have to address them. Some of them will take some time because we are asking for policy change, reviewing probably existing laws, and therefore some might take time to be addressed.
So what's Ghana going to do if the issues that have been raised within this dialogue are not adhered to or not addressed? And because we have a lot of rhetoric, we have a lot of PR, we have a lot of people coming out saying, yes, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. When it gets to a level, then it's swept underneath the carpet once again. So what assurances do Ghanaians have that Ghana is doing what it is within their mandate?
Per our framework of operation, we don't end activities with just a dialogue. The dialogues have been held right from the district to the regional and to the national level. So the issues have been brought up from the bottom, and that assemblies have issues that they have to address. The regional offices also have issues they have to address, and then we have also drawn government attention to other issues that we think that has national focus. We are going to follow up on these issues right from the district level and to constantly remind duty bearers that you have assured us of A, B, and C, and therefore you will have to respond to that. And we will continue to do that until we have the answers that we are looking out for.
Okay. Yeah. So apart from agriculture, what other areas do you work in?
We work in the area of education, where we monitor, for instance, the capitation grants. School people in rural areas and poor communities, including urban poor communities, benefiting from the capitation grant, as well as the school feeding program. We monitor the implementation of the National Health Insurance Scheme to ensure that poor people have access, or it actually leads to improved access for poor people particularly. And I think those are the things that we do. In addition, there was an earlier discussion here about the review of the petroleum revenue management law, for instance. SEN is one of the civil society organizations that right at the inception pushed for its review because we identify certain lapses and challenges. So we are going to make a proposal. There was a call for proposal that ended end of this month, and that's a way as a civil society organization we influence policy making in this country. So we work on broad ranges of issues, but in all our intervention, whether it's about education, health, or agri, we promote or we ensure that there is some form of transparency, accountability, and responsiveness and equity in the way government runs these programs and interventions. And those are the things that we demand and will continue to demand. We also have to emphasize that after the dialogues and the engagement at the district, regional, and national level, we also do follow up on sector agencies and Parliament itself, because particularly at the national level, the relevant parliamentary subcommittees were part of the engagement with the ministries, for instance. So we follow up on them, that these were some of the issues that were discussed. You contributed 6 months after, 3 months after, where are we going to? So we monitor and we document the report thereafter for future engagement. Again, so it is a cycle, and policy changes, you don't have it in a day, and we recognize that as a civil society. So in our continuous engagement with government, there is some time for government to reform policies, to review policies, and also to implement existing policies.